Good morning. And looks like we have at least a few people here. We're glad you're here. Thanks for coming. I'm Teepa, and we have a few of the PAC team here. I have Beth Nolan, Christine Brody, and we have Rachel Volkers, and we have Amelia. Now, if you have problems with how the video is working or how the webinar is working, talk to Amelia. If you have questions, you can either put it in chat and responses. If you'll put it in chat, that's helpful down at the bottom. One thing before we do it, let's just make sure if you go down to chat, if you would, go ahead and make sure it says when you click on the little down arrow, instead of just to hosts and panelists, it says to everyone. So we share out to everybody, not just those of us on the screen. Your message gets shared to everyone. So today, the product webinar that we're talking about is really looking at pre-recorded content. In other words, online videos, or they could, I guess, be DVDs, stuff that you have that's recorded, that's stuff that we've done, I've done, or some of us on the screen, or maybe some other people have done. And we're trying to figure out, well, how do you make good use of that? Because we want to make sure that it's not just wallpaper. It's not just background sound. It's not just people looking at it and then thinking, oh, yeah, that's all I need is just the video, because that's not what we believe. And so it would be a mistake to think that. Now, I'm going to ask the team here, what are some of our most popular formats? If I were to ask you guys, if you know everything you know about reach out and outreach that we do, what are some of our most popular formats?
I mean, YouTube comes to mind if you're talking popular formats that people get our content.
Yep, of our content, YouTube. So YouTube is a popular place. You pick a YouTube thing and it's anywhere from like 2 minutes to, an hour, depends. But you can pick it and then you watch as much as you want to, and then you go away. And then it suggests other things that you could watch. And so it's a way to move from thing to thing to thing if you're interested. So YouTube is one. What else we got? Because we have several pre-recorded content pieces.
I was thinking Facebook seems to be pretty popular.
We have pre-recorded sessions. Like every morning we do something. Now, sometimes they're pre-recorded, sometimes they're live, but we record them. And then on Facebook, they're now available. And we're actually, Amelia is taking some of that content along with some of our other team members and converting it over to YouTube. So it's available not only on Facebook, you have to go back and find it, but it can also be available within the menu that we have, the channel that we have, and the divisions that we've started working on in Facebook. YouTube. What else do we got?
TikTok is another one.
TikTok is another one where we have pre-recorded content on there. And those are very short. And what's different about TikTok than most of the others? What would you say are some of the differences?
Teepa, if you're asking what literally comes to mind, not just the shortness, but there's a lot going on for me visually. It's sometimes almost too much for this 51-year-old.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the things about TikTok, it's generally designed for a younger set of people, but it's not that we don't have people who are older that are doing, but that pre-recorded content is really meant to be very quick, fast paced. It's got music or sound, and it's got the visuals, and it's got words, and it's got hearts floating up when people do stuff. And it's like, holy moly, this is a lot of stuff. But one of the things that we did that is relatively unique on it is typical, and then PAC. No. So we often, if we do content or a scenario, we will do, here's the typical scenario, and here's the difference that we believe. And then we give you some chunk highlights to sort of make it make sense.
Yeah.
So we did a lot, and some of them are grouped into like we have end of life or late state care. We have EMS. We have hallucinations and delusional thinking. We have challenges in the restroom kind of thing, bathroom. So if you're looking for specific content areas, they're super short because they have to be 3 minutes or less, or they used to have to be that. And then we have some that we did as live, and that then, if I remember right, converted over to YouTube. So, and we are taking some of the content off of TikTok and moving it over to YouTube. So that's available. We've got one or two other options.
Our website.
Oh, on our website. Yeah. So we have on-demand video on the website. We have it both online version, but we also have some DVDs, but we have a lot, that are available online. Yeah.
I guess I just come back to, besides the other socials, which is Instagram.
Yeah. So we have that. Oh, good job, Lisa. Thank you out there. Our group was having a little difficulty. There is some other stuff. What is it? I can't think. Pre-recorded. We have podcasts. We do have our podcast with Greg. And we do those. We release one of those a week. So those are verbally interactive. So we have those.
The one that really does come to mind, though, honestly, is all of our pre-recorded webinars that, interestingly enough, if you're looking for training material, is not the place we go to. We think of this is high quality video set up with amazing mics and internet that's just not an issue. They're really in the moment, true live webinars where you're giving interactive, workshops, almost awareness workshops with individuals. And that content is so rich and so deep.
Yeah. So we have a whole lot of stuff, which in lots of different places, which can sort of just feel like, I don't know where to look. I don't know what to do. I'm not sure even where to start. So what we did is we selected a few. And what we're going to do with those is we're going to take a look with using pre-recorded content, video content in this particular. We're going to stick with video today. And we're going to start off, why would you do it and how would you do it? And we always operate with the idea that the goal of what we're doing is to build relationships. In the watching and the viewing of the video and using of the content, it's a relationship you're trying to establish. And you truly are hoping that it will empower people in some way and build compassion and incite curiosity. And so that's how we're going to try to stay true to our values as we use video content that's been pre-recorded. So to do this, one of the things to keep in mind is that we recognize that there's lots of stuff out there. And here's what we're going to be looking at today. So, we're really looking at driving under the influence. So it was a video that I did that's looking at issues with driving when somebody is living with dementia. Another one is using your positive physical approach with the various ability states that somebody might have that allow you to assess someone's abilities as you approach them and start to engage them. So recognizing this skill set. And then there's coping with coping with emerald distress. Someone's in distress and they're in emerald state. Okay. And then, I'm noticing changes. What should I do? What shouldn't I do? So those are the four that we're going to pull up eventually at some point today and take a look at pieces. Now, here's the thing though. When we try to figure out why would you use video content? Why use pre-recorded video content? So I'm going to ask the group here, why would you use pre-recorded video content? So Rachel, you haven't spoken yet. So, Rachel must have popped off. Oh,
no,
dear.
I'm here.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
It didn't have a little arrow. It didn't have an arrow for me. Oh, good. I'm glad you're here because I thought, what happened to her? All right. So Rachel, why would you use pre-recorded video content? Because you work with lots of different people in the mission that you have in the world, because some of it's with us in the work we do, but you live in Oklahoma and you work with folks around you in Oklahoma. So why do you sometimes use pre-recorded video? And you do consulting with us, and why do you use it?
Well, I think if I know what it is, then I know what I'm working with. So it's something that I would be familiar with, and I would know what I'm trying to do with that information. So if it's video that I'm familiar with, then I'm sharing it with somebody else, and then we're watching it together, and that sparks the conversation or the discussion. So I'm using it as a tool.
So when you first approach video content, first thing you're going to do is watch it for yourself.
I watch it first.
Oh yeah, you always watch it first. And when you watch it first, you're watching for does this have some things that I want to reference somewhere somehow? And so I want to categorize some of the content. And do you usually think, oh, I'm going to want to show the whole video to somebody?
I've actually been learning that less can be more. So if I want somebody I can do the fire hose approach, but that doesn't necessarily work so well. So I'm learning that little bit. So we might watch a little bit and then we talk about it and then we might watch a little bit. But I'm thinking smaller actually tends to work better.
So you become the filter.
I'll watch the long videos because I want to. I like the long videos.
All right, so you watch the whole video. So spread your hands like this. You watch the whole video, and then you figure out where you want to focus in. And it might be here, or it might be here, or it might be over here. But you take that one piece, and that's what you share with the person, and you both look at. But you've seen the whole picture. But they don't, at that moment, you're not thinking probably they need to see the whole picture to get something from some of the content.
Well, if they're really excited about it, then there's more for them to go back and watch later.
Oh, so you can go back later. Oh, cool. So here's the reason that I think most people, so Rachel just gave you a majority here. I'm curious about the topic. So some people watch videos because they're just curious for themselves. They want to learn more. Sometimes I'm planning ahead so I can be prepared. So of those topics that we covered before, okay, let me go back. I have to go back to that slide. Which of these do you think is just because you're curious, and which might you be more interested in because you're thinking, ooh, I want to plan ahead because I don't want to wait until I'm in the moment to start learning. I want to learn in advance because I could see that this is a possibility that I might run across. What do you think here of these four? What are you thinking? Anybody? Yeah. Including you guys out there. This isn't this is an open forum here. What do you think?
So Teepa, I'm wondering if it has to do with what you're actually dealing with. Because depending on what you're going through, seems like, at least for me, that's kind of what, like, oh, well, I'm thinking about this, or this is what I'm dealing with, or maybe dealing with. So I may be more keyed in on this area right now.
So for you, Rachel, do you like to look at things before a crisis is there, or do you wait for the crisis and then go looking for resources?
Sometimes that's how it happens, but I really like to be more prepared.
So for you, if we have somebody who we've identified, they're starting to have brain changes and they are a driver and they do live out, so that if driving was no longer a possibility, it's going to affect their whole life. Then looking at driving relatively early, before we even get to where driving's an issue, might be an important thing to think about for you. Yeah. So given that, who do you think should possibly take a look at I'm noticing changes?
Oh, all of us. Oh.
It's one of my favorites.
So this idea of like, I don't know whether I'm going to be in that situation or not, but if I haven't done any background work and all of a sudden I'm confronted by somebody who's really changed right in front of me and it surprises me, my instinctive reaction to that might not be the most helpful reaction. And so seeing what it is that you can do when you're noticing changes might turn out to be something sort of helpful to have in the back pocket, so that, oh, yeah. Oh, I had never thought of that. Yeah. And then really noticing what somebody's abilities are as you approach them and engage them. How many people think that maybe just in general, that might be something that might be helpful to folks, whether or not you're working with dementia?
I mean, my husband doesn't have dementia, but when in fact, if I can actually notice how he may be changing due to stressors or something, I sometimes will come in with my agenda. We're just going about our daily lives. And if I am assessing, boy, I can bounce and pause, and that interaction goes totally differently.
So the slam of the refrigerator door, why don't we have any milk? I thought we had milk. Who let the milk out? And it's like, ooh, it's real tempting to go, who let the dogs out? That's the question. Don't in that moment because
well, I saw you finish it. You were the one that threw the carton away. I thought you.
Ooh. Yeah. So sometimes we only notice when they're in the middle of a situation that we could use some help. And sometimes it's I already tried some things that didn't work out so well. And so now I'm going to look because I tried stuff that I thought might work and it didn't work. Or maybe it's not about me at all. Maybe it's about I'm part of a team or a family, and I'm realizing I think we have some unawareness around here. I think we have some people not knowing some things that I'm wondering if they knew that, would that change anything? Okay. Or maybe I like examples. And so if I get some examples, I can figure things out for me, because if I see an example or two, I might be able to figure it out. Or I'm a professional and I want to develop my own abilities, because many of our videos could help a professional with developing their own abilities. Or maybe I have a team or family and I want us to work together a little better than we're working. So as you look at that, is there any why that I didn't identify? Because these are some of the reasons why, and these are a lot of different reasons people might be using video content. Anything I haven't got down here that you can think about?
I'm really curious with the folks, if you guys are watching this, what jumps to mind that, and it may be something you came for, it may be something that you would know other people might come for, but one thing that really jumps out for me is there's nothing here about training.
No, that's not about videos. Videos are this way that we initiate stuff, and we've got some ideas and we want to check them out. But it's really not in training somebody to do something differently. It's really meant for awareness or making connections. That's what the videos are going to be really good at. More than that's going to take more than a video.
Oh, I don't know, Teepa. I think it was last weekend I watched just hours and hours of video on how you fly a commercial plane. And I don't know why when I asked a bunch of people if they wanted to come flying with me, no one raised their hand.
Nobody was climbing on board and getting in their seat, even though, you offered a discount.
I even passed the quiz.
Oh, wow. Great. Yeah, that's good to know. Or how about I'm a new surgeon and I watched I watched several videos on how you do this particular surgery. So I was wondering if you wanted to sign up, because I think I've got it. I mean, and so we're playing around a little bit, but the idea of really, when we have something as challenging as dementia, to view a video and think, oh yeah, I have this will be fine. Then that's all I need. I'll just sign off on this and then I can go do stuff. And it's like, well, this is really just sort of starting to realize, wow, that didn't go like I was planning, or this could go badly, or I'm in the middle of something and what I was thinking was going to work isn't. And so here's the thing. Rachel's absolutely right. We want us to think about 5 minutes of content. We want to think about short bursts of content and then start thinking about what do we want to do after we watch that content. So here's step number 1, option 2, which I'll give you first, and then I'll go back to option 1. This is the one most people do. Identify what's happening in your world and highlight your agenda prior to looking at this thing, prior to looking at our site or talking to our team. And option 1 is cruise our storefront and read the description and watch a preview clip. So you could do either one of those with all of our content if you came on the website. But those are 2 very different approaches to how you might go about just even looking at what content you want to use. Because we've picked out 4, but how many do we have? Anybody have a rough guess?
I mean, I stopped counting at like 38.
I think there's probably a few more. Yeah. Keep going.
But Teepa, one of the things that you said, I think we kind of glossed over something that's pretty important. And the step 1 and step 2 is critical. It's this idea of finding something that's going to fit for your needs. But I want to go back. Somebody at least had asked in the chat about, you said that videos aren't meant for training, but rather, what are they for? And you said something about this idea of awareness. Can you tell us a little bit more about that just real quickly before we head into this use of?
Yeah. So what our videos are really designed for is to help people notice something. to see something or hear something or experience something in a way that gets them curious, that gets them seeing maybe another perspective and starting to feel something a little different or think something a little different. Maybe it's looking at something and realizing, oh, well, that would, and maybe it empowers you to change, but it's not what you would need to do to change. It's just an experience that you had. It's similar to if you watch Mission Impossible, let's go to one of those movies or one of those kind of things. How many of you think you could then be one of the people, even just act in that thing?
No way.
Could you take on that role?
No way.
You think it would take some practice and rehearsal?
Well, even to be the actors, to hear, recently There's been a lot of press about like Tom Cruise and the amount of stunts that he does for himself. And everybody talks about how that's nuts. And he's been doing it for 30 years.
Well, yeah. And so how many years does it take to set up that? I mean, because they've been talking on a lot of the promos that it's been a year and a half to set up this one stunt and lots of rehearsal and lots of rehearsal and lots of rehearsal before you jump. And in the world of dementia care, that's been our biggest challenge all along. Watch this video and then go jump. Go do it. And so each of us on this webinar have been in that role, have been told, yeah, just go do it. And we've had successes and we've had failures and we've tried some things and we thought we had it. And then we found out, no, we didn't. And then we realized, you know what? Here's the real challenge. When someone is living with dementia and I'm going to partner with them, we got two people who are trying to learn at the same time. And if I have a better handle on how to be supportive, then I'm doing less learning in the moment and I'm doing more paying attention to the person that I'm trying to support, so that in that moment, I'm not worried so much about me and how I'm reacting as much as I'm really noticing them and how they're responding. And the same is true when I'm working with a team. If I have a team member or a family member, if I am so really focused on my abilities and am I doing it the way, now, did she say, wait a minute, let me think, did she say, could you show me what you do with it? Or could you show me where that thing is? What did she say about it? It was one of those things she said. And it's like, it's so easy to think you have something until you go to use a different part of your brain to realize, oops, I don't actually have that. I thought I had it, slipped away from me. So that's the challenge I think we have. So one of the realities here is we often skip to step 5. We do 1 or 2, I would say, and then we skip to 5. But we've missed some steps because we invite the audience. And then we may ask the audience after they watch the video, well, what did you notice? That might work. But maybe what happened is, what was step 3, do you think? Because I didn't put it here.
That's interesting. So as you're describing, it's this concept of, as Rachel said, she likes to watch the whole video and be prepared. And so she describes herself at a very different place of self-awareness, of recognizing, I really want and need more information. But yet she also then recognized when she was picking smaller clips, like that may not be where somebody else is. Maybe all they would be willing to take in is
we're going to focus. Yeah, good. So step 3 is watch the video. So you've selected it one way or the other, and now you're going to watch it. And from watching it, you're going to figure out what little piece are you going to then share out. What are you going to do? And why are you doing that one? What's the point of doing that piece? Why do you want to do that piece? And then, and only then, should you really be ready to invite your audience. Because just watching a clip, that's not going to do it. Watching the whole video, we've decided that's too much. So we've got to figure this out. How do you go through doing this? And then ask the audience, oh, well, you know what? Maybe we should watch a clip. Because we do have some that we picked. Because with a video, what we're going to do, we'll see, we're going to build greater awareness. So Beth, if you would cue up, I'm going to quit sharing. If you cue up the first little clip from Driving Under the Influence.
All right.
And let's just watch this and see what we notice after watching it. Now, what do you notice I'm doing before we even start watching it? What did I give my group here?
Well, you really supported me.
The title of what we're watching.
I said, here's the title. And I said, I'm going to have you watch this. And I'm going to ask you what you noticed as we watch it. Okay.
All right.
So Beth has it pulled up, and she has it pulled up to the time code. Yes, it is going to be possible to get a copy of the slides. Absolutely. So she's going to start it, and we decided we would start it at 8:16. And you can, before we even start it, what does it start with? Let's start with what pops up before we even get audio here, because it's called video for a reason. So what's on the video? Christine, what you got?
I'm seeing some information that I'm wondering, is this what you're going to be talking about? What does the person living with dementia believe about abilities, their abilities?
So we have some words up here before we even get started. So if we put this up, we could have it sit for a second. So aware of changes about making driving risky or different, unaware of changes. Okay, so they might be either aware of existing driving habits and routines that are matched to needs, existing that are not matching all their needs for transportation. Okay, that's a lot of content. All right, let's listen and see what Teepa says, because we're only going to play it for a very short little clip. And Beth, you have the stop time, right?
I believe so.
Okay, cool.
But if somebody wants to put that in the chat, that'd be awesome.
To figure that out. The second thing I would say is for friends and family, trying to sort out what they believe and think about driving, and whether or not their opinion about driving is colored or influenced by what it would do, not just for the person, but what it's going to do for them. Would it change their life? Would it create barriers or boundaries for them, making it like, oh God, I don't know. I don't really want to cause trouble right now. He gets so angry about this. So is it a problem with, I don't want to ruin our relationship. I don't want to limit him in his sense of freedom. Or if I have to go over there every afternoon that he likes to go over to Hardee's or McDonald's or whatever, then that means my whole afternoon is tied up taking him and dropping him off. And I have also kids, and I've got to figure that out. And so sometimes people allow people to continue doing things because it's convenient, not because it's smart. And so really checking out with family, tell me a little bit about what you think is happening. Do you have a sense that their driving skill is still adequate, or do you see it changing? Do you think when they need to drive and how they need to drive is still working for them? And again, I just don't routinely find that we're doing a very good job of checking these things out. We make assumptions. We don't do assessments. We don't even screen. And then the final population that I think we don't always get good information about is medical advisors and others in the health field. But what do they believe about the person's abilities? Are they actually looking at their abilities? Are they simply using a global statement of somebody has dementia, I don't think they should be driving. Somebody's in the middle of the disease, I don't think they should be driving. Somebody's just been diagnosed, I think they should drive for about a year, and then I think that's it. I mean, it's amazing that there's so little data about decision-making related to dementia and driving for the medical profession. And when I just did the session with the people who are living with dementia, they said one of my folks said that he doesn't trust doctors to make good recommendations based on the individual's abilities, because he believes, and he used to be a lawyer, I'll be honest, that there's this secondary thing of being afraid, well, it could be on my medical practice license. If I say somebody's still able to drive, they end up having an accident, then I could be held liable.
Ooh. Okay. So, all right. So we watched that little chunk. So I'm going to ask each of you, what stuck in your mind? What did you most notice having listened to that?
The importance of talking to people, being curious, finding out some facts, collecting some data, for just almost blindly jumping to an assumption or a decision.
So the idea that assessing something is really going to be really important when we talk about driving and dementia. Anybody else got something different?
Yeah, it looks like Tabitha had mentioned she picked up the phrase, don't make assumptions, make assessments.
So watching that. Now, what was actually said in the video?
I think that was a good summary. It was tied in so nicely with what Christine said, but I don't know exactly what was said. I saw quotes around it and I believed her.
So what we had one screen that talked about people living with, we had another screen that talked about family members and friends, and then we had a third screen that talked about medical providers.
Yeah, and Lisa brought up the idea of talking about that your statements need to be focused on having a difficult conversation with the individual.
That it seems like what we don't have is a cohesive system for really assessing, evaluating, and then managing. And so decisions get made in the world of driving that actually are not based on what?
Maybe some facts. Yeah, people.
Yeah. For the individual people.
Factual information. And this challenge that we're faced with is there's a lot of opinion and possibilities about why decisions get made, but it's not necessarily based on the person's actual abilities, it's beliefs about abilities, or the need for people to be from place to place, or somebody's worry about the legal aspects of it, or their policy, and they're the ones that, are the ones that sign off on driving. So why would this segment be important if I were working with, and then let's pick our audience? Okay, so now I just threw the monkey wrench in, didn't I? Said, so who are you talking to?
Because it matters. I mean, this clip was so well selected, and I can honestly say I didn't select it. So it's actual, that's not like, patting myself on the back. It covers whoever you're talking to. So it's like a just in case where anybody's need may be, or maybe someone else sees the problem, or whose responsibility is this? It's there. And that was covered for me. So no matter what people have in terms of where they see the riskiness of it.
Yeah. So in using this little clip of video, we could build awareness. People are suddenly aware of something they weren't aware of, which is there is no grand scheme of evaluating, how you really determine should somebody or shouldn't somebody drive. We might cause someone in the audience to become distressed. Who do you think might have gotten distressed listening to that one little clip? Who might show signs of distress?
I think the guy that was a lawyer who now is living with dementia might be a little bit distressed.
Yeah, because wait, that's not fair. I mean, they're basing it on this and not necessarily my skill set. I don't trust doctors, and yet they're in charge of this stuff. Who else might show some distress? Do we think if we might uncover a distress by showing this video clip? We think family member who is recognizing, oh, well, but I do have to pick the kids up. We didn't disagree with that. We just said that might be impacting the decision, or not noticing that somebody's, is it matching their need? If all I'm doing is going to the corner store and back when the traffic is really light and there's nobody else on the road, and I'm driving a golf cart. What do you think?
Oh, maybe.
Until the time I think I'm going back home and instead I'm heading toward the interstate. Because what we didn't do is assess my abilities for direction finding. Because the problem was not my driving skills. The problem was my
navigation.
Hippocamp area. Yeah. So this is the thing we have to be aware of when we're using a video. When it's pre-recorded, we got to be ready for whatever pops up in the conversation. And if we're not, it can really be surprising. And we want to make sure we go with the flow there and see where we're at. And the reason I say that is it's really important if we're going to use the video content. I think it's important to use video content, but I also think it's sort of important to recognize. So under driving under the influence, we also had some other clips pulled up just as possibilities. So the second clip has to do with mistakes that many people make. Okay. And you can see it's actually a very short little clip.
As Teepa, as I'm pulling that one out, making sure it actually would play as I move the video forward. The other thing that actually really kind of surprised me, but I was so glad you put this in there, Valerie, was I'm a fixer, and it caused me to stress because there's no easy fix for this problem. And I think that if I'm expecting to be skilled enough as a facilitator, recognizing that I may cause my audience distress, how do I support but not take on someone else's distress? Because at the end of the day, that's what we encounter all the time, is that our awareness brings to the front that nobody.
So what am I supposed to do? He is driving.
So few people know. Yeah. It's hard.
My dad just went to the doctor. That's exactly what happened. Because when we do this awareness thing, people are like, life is happening for people. Yeah. And they watch the video for a reason. That's why we brought it up. And it is a topic of interest. So then we show folks so one of the next clips you're going to pick, we picked, or Beth picked, was let's look at this. So, what kind of mistakes do happen? Let's see.
Can't get to the park, and you can't go to the park from where you live unless you drive, unless you know somebody who will take you. So the whole thing is complicated. So the other question we do not ask all too often is what alternatives actually exist for getting where you want to go when you want to get there? What options are out there? What skills do you need to use those options? How do those services that you might be trying to use impact your self-directed lifestyle, your long-time roles and responsibilities, safety, and your own income? Because not everything is free, and not everything is easy to use, and not everything is available when you'd prefer to use it. And not everything makes you feel like an adult, and not everything is actually something that makes sense, because it doesn't necessarily go where you want to go when you want to go there.
Well, so to meet Valerie's need to fix something, what happened in this little clip? So I'm curious what you picked up. What happened for you in this little clip? What did you notice in this little clip?
So I'll tell you what my reactions were, and I'm hoping, Valerie, you also would share what this did for you. Because for me, it started to give the steps that I might be able to take to move forward and recognize and begin to let go of the fact that each person is an individual. And so I'm not going to be able to have one fix for everybody. But that was for me. So Valerie just put hers in the chat.
So grab the reins and go, whoa. So before we jump to conclusions, or even after an assessment, one of the things that I'm saying we should be assessing is what alternatives are out there. Before you start ripping something out of somebody's hands and saying, well, you can't drive anymore, and assuming that somebody else is going to take on that driving responsibility, let's pause and let's back up even further, because one of our biggest uh-ohs is we don't take the time to review what are the alternatives before we start just jumping ahead to I'll need a driver, or he needs to quit driving, or what are the alternatives? So we have a clear picture in our heads about the possibilities moving forward. So so there you go. Now, let me go back to, we could look at the third piece, because what is the third piece? Let's see. Let's go look and see what our third piece was. Oh, so we have, here's what you could try. Now, how many of you really want to see that before I move on? Because it's just really, you want to finish this off. Yeah, I hear you, Beth.
Valerie, I got you, man. I got you. We'll hear this last clip, baby. Is it time to do that?
Rachel, would you be willing to skip this last piece?
Well, what's interesting to me, Teepa, is listening to these, because I do so much. I have conversations with people with dementia and families. it's interesting when I watch these clips, I'm connecting them to real life situations. And I've asked these questions and we've looked at resources and there aren't, and what do you do? And so it's interesting how it's happening differently for me, because I'm kind of like, yeah, but there is, and you try, and yes, there is a thing with the doctors, and yes, there is a thing with people. And so it's just interesting how my head goes straight
and so
to
who's still on the road, even though they're licensed, they don't have a license, and they aren't going far, but they need to go where they need to go because that's part of who they are. And
you don't have the transportation options. And so what are you supposed to do? Because
yeah. I mean, the reality is this is the reason we did Driving Under the Influence, is because this is a topic that is so poorly addressed in care. I mean, this is so many assumptions and so little real support for people available. And it does alter your entire life. So, all right, to meet Beth Smead, well, anyway.
Doesn't have to all be about me.
All right, I'll quit sharing and we'll let Beth pop up, because I do have some other things I want us to talk a bit about of what I think is important, but go for it, Beth.
Here's our 1 minute clip for those of us that need the solution.
I would rather have a family member validate and agree that it's hard than I would have them be firm with the individual and try to get the person to behave themselves, because I think that's what gets us in trouble all too frequently. The second recommendation, control access to the car keys. Take the keys away from the individual. Some families have fake keys created to provide a sense of comfort to the person. I would say, I hope the person is really far along when you do this, because if you do it too early in the process, the person is not stupid. So they know something's happened to the car key and there's something wrong with it. And they either get a locksmith to figure it out, they get a new key made, they call AAA. So if you're going to use this technique to provide comfort, a key that doesn't actually work, that has to happen a little later in the disease, because early in the disease, people are really pretty smart about what's going on here. And
I'll just pause, because I think when you try to come up with this laundry list of do this, that's why we don't do that, because people are more complicated than that. So your take I couldn't resist, but your take on watching that little clip. Christy, what was your take on watching that little clip? Because I watched Rachel's face and Rachel's, yep.
The importance of validating what it's like for somebody. I heard you say that a couple of times.
This is really hard. What we're asking you to do is super hard. Yeah. And what else about this last segment?
Don't lie to me. That's what Connie said. Being deceptive is not the way to gain trust in the long run. Dementia is a marathon. And it's not a sprint. Yeah. And the relationship's got to come first, doesn't it?
Yeah. In our book, it is the most important thing, because if we start developing a sense of distrust, and when I said a family member, I want the family member to feel like this is really hard. And if they need to toss the ball back over to me, toss it back to me. We need that third party often involved, because that family shouldn't be the bad guy. And all too often, that's what's happening still in this world. So we could go further. We could talk in depth about this, but here's what I want to emphasize. The possible uses of this video. What could happen when we watch this video? Quite honestly, we might be able to get some things. And number one, we might be able, come on, Teepa, get it to move. There we go. We might, as a concerned family member or a friend, watch these clips, or we might watch the whole video. As a provider concerned about a situation, we might watch the video and pull lips, which is what we did in this one. As a certified independent trainer, I might be training medical providers. I might be training social workers. I might be training family members. I might be training staff. I might be training somebody in an independent living setup. But I could increase awareness and knowledge about what's going on and set us up for the next step. as a coach, I might be working with a family member, helping them recognize, how do you do that affirmation? How do you do that validation? How do you move away from the pattern and say, but mom, what did the doctor say? He said I should be able to drive as long as I'm able. That's not what he said. Why do you think he's writing to the DMV? Well, he's telling him I should still be able to drive. This is going to go well. So depending on your certification, there are different things you might use this for, and there's different ways in which you might review this with someone and use it as a resource. You might also be a care community professional or leader and dealing with situations around driving in an independent living or a continuing care retirement community. Or maybe you're in assisted living where people are still using motor vehicles or feeling like they should be able to. Or maybe you're someone who's aging and starting to experience some changes, and you're looking at yourself and you're thinking, well, I'd rather be in control than out of control. Let me see what is involved here, because I do need to look at my alternatives. I want to know what they are before I even get started. I want to be more prepared. So here's the thing about all of our videos. One of our recommendations is to think about other resources that you could put alongside them so that you have a little bit more that you could work with. It could be our dementia cue card that's available, and all of these are things that are available on our website. It could be your PIPES resource card. I'm going to pull these up in just a second. A pause card, a PPA, PPC. How do you engage somebody? An umbrella of dementia resource card, a 6 pieces of the puzzle resource card, a gem state resource card, the 5 apologies and appreciation resource card. Or it might be a service, like a care partner support series or a care partner gem series or a champion course or something else. Because this is the start of a conversation, and it's not meant to be the fix for everything that's going on. So in this slide, you will see all the different possible roles that PAC offers people. And so sometimes your role, let's say I'm an engagement leader, and I have a lot of independent living folks. I may get up with AARP for a defensive driving course, because I really want people to, after watching this video, I'm thinking, crap, we have a lot of people who are in these categories. I have a lot of spouses. You know what? I'm thinking there's something I could do here that would make a difference. To get people to come to the course, though, I'm going to show them clips. So this could be a whole variety of things. Now, here's the pause slide. And we've started coming up with, this is new. Some of you may not have seen it yet. We use pause. And pause is pause, acknowledge, and then you want to, after you've acknowledged sort of the need for the pause or the desire, then there's the unwind and their breathe. And then you sort things out and then you exit the pause. But the reason for the pause has to do with, I need to prepare and I need to get going here. I need to think about the 5 Ps because I'm missing something. I want to pause because I want to make sure I stay focused on care and it doesn't become neglectful or abusive, and I've got to get permission. Maybe I'm pausing because, I've got to look at, okay, how are we going to do this? Like Rachel said, there aren't a lot of resources. What are we going to do if driving isn't an option? What gem state is this person? And what do we do to support someone in that gem state? So that one card has a lot of connections, but we also have the PIPES card. So maybe what we do is we look at that little clip and then we go, okay, so how would we prepare for this conversation? What we do for this conversation before we have it? How might we get that conversation started about driving? How would we initiate it? How would we approach and gain permission? Then how would we get the other person to participate? What are some things we might want to keep in mind as we're doing that? And finally, how would we evaluate how that's going? And we either keep going or we go, okay, pause. I think we need to switch out here. That did not go the way I was hoping it would go. So I'm going to pause there just with those 2 slides. because there's other things we could look at. I have up all of our, in the PowerPoint, you will see I have basically these cards available because I want everybody to realize that the video is just a piece of a puzzle. Here's another piece that might be helpful to you as you're figuring out how you're going to go from watching a video and gaining awareness to help somebody move forward in some fashion. So we got lots of stuff out there. With driving, what do you notice I did with the gem state card?
Really highlights the fact that we're really talking about some gems that we think are actually really at the place where driving might be safe for them and for others.
Yeah.
I guess.
So interventions. So what I did, if I were going to work with folks, I would do the video clip and then I might actually pull up the gem card and go, okay, I'm going to cover up this. I want us just to talk about where do we think we are? Where do you think John is? Where do I think John is? Where does John think John is? What's going on here? What have we noticed? What's our evidence? And how are we going to start thinking about doing something? Because here's a picture that many people are familiar from the work that we do, but what's really important here is someone in relatively early loss versus someone in late loss. There's some big differences in abilities. That doesn't mean there's nothing there. It means there is, because that's a healthy kid over on the far side. And they certainly have a lot of abilities. And so do people in late state, early state, and look normal, but it is different. Oh, these are our I'm sorry and our appreciations. So all of those cards could be used with any video. If you have the skill and the awareness and the knowledge on how to pull those in. Some of our other videos that we pulled up just to sort of share with you is using PPA with various gem states. How do you assess abilities? And so there's a clip. And then, so what are things we could do? Here, what's our bottom line message? Because there I would use that. I mean, that's just me. Coping with emerald distress. Eeks, 4 minutes. We're going to watch 4 minutes. And then we're going to talk. And in emerald distress, usually people are in emerald distress, so they wouldn't be watching the video more than likely. Though some people might in advance. My job is to help people in emerald distress, so I'm going to learn about it before I get there. But I'm talking about emerald distress, and then I have this range of gem states. Wonder why?
Say that question one more time, Teepa, if you would.
So I show you the thing on emerald distress, but why would I I've blocked sapphire and I've blocked pearl. Why would I show this range of gem states if I'm talking about emerald distress, emerald state distress?
Wow, I'm wondering if two things come to mind. One, is the person really, if they're showing distress, we have to check to make sure it really is emerald skills.
Oh,
or is it really
an emerald who's in distress may not be an emerald in that moment?
Yeah.
Oh, so if we're trying to apply emerald skills when somebody's in that moment so distressed that they're showing us ruby abilities.
Yeah.
Who missed the boat?
Whew. Tabitha said that exactly. It's not clear for each person, different skills, maybe different gems. And that brings to mind the other person who might be having actual moments of gem state change.
Oh,
myself.
So as a helper, when I try emerald and they don't do emerald, who else might be shifting gem states? So looking at our own selves, and finally, the one that a lot of people have picked up, I've noticed some changes. Let's talk. Again, the point of pulling up all these, and you guys worked really hard to pull these clips up so they would have value. What I wanted to do during this webinar is really help us look at why we're doing what we're doing, and then some how to do it, and then realize we have other resources, not just the video clips, but other resources that when you put them all together, some fairly simple questions can start to raise awareness, but they're not going to fix the problem in and of themselves. That's why we have free consults. That's why we offer options other than that. And that's why we believe people who are working in the world of dementia could really use a whole lot more than they get. But if all you get is a little video clip, it can really change things, but it's not the final answer. So what are you thinking, team?
Go ahead, Rachel. I was just thinking about you, some things you've told me.
I was thinking about how not leaving people on their own, where it's kind of watching the video and problem solving together. So it's really like one person isn't all by themselves. So it's okay, now that we're setting kind of the groundwork at the foundation where we're all coming from, and now taking that information about what we just learned and what we know about the person, now we can all work together to figure out what can we do about this. So it's kind of helping us to figure things out and work together to problem solve.
Yeah. So the tools that we've put together, you start with the video, but then you have these tools. And we put the tools together because we've been doing this a long time. And we believe if the only thing you have in your toolbox is a hammer, unfortunately, everything starts looking like a nail because that's all you got to handle. And what we think is videos are one of the tools that we have. But we want to really have a robust toolbox because the video alone isn't going to fix dementia nor life with dementia. It doesn't change life. It just gives us a perspective to take and consider. And there are so many other options, and we try to support people in those options so that we can move away from a place of not knowing to a place of awareness, to a place of some knowledge, but then to start thinking, wow, there is skill involved here. And it's not going to be a quick fix. And this is a long journey. And maybe getting the right support in place for me and for you is something really to consider. And a lot of what's out there may or may not be really thought through from everybody's perspective. Because sometimes people come up with, here's your list of what you should do. And it's like, wait, but, I'm not sure that's going to work. And what we do with the videos is say, let's take a look at this, and now let's figure out how we problem solve. So anyone else want to chime in before we wrap up?
Gosh, some of the beauty of people is that we are all unique. And also some of the hard parts about people is that we are all unique. I love that.
Yeah.
It's a process, isn't it?
So if you're curious and you're overwhelmed by the number of videos that we have, we do consults. We also have people on chat that can respond. And we also have a relatively new storefront. And the storefront actually helps you categorize and take peeks at the preview. You can preview videos. But if you have any questions before you get in too deep, raise your hand and say, I could use some help. Because one of the things we try really hard to do is come in and support you with where you are and try to help you figure it out. And we have some members of our team who've watched a lot of videos. Oh, Rachel and Christine and Amelia and Beth. Yeah, I just made them, but I was there. But I have a different perspective. All right, everybody, take care with your care out there. And if there's anything we can do to help you use videos effectively, please let us know. And also give us some feedback on the webinar, whether or not it was helpful to you, because our goal was to do something that might help you use videos effectively and not ask too much of them or ask too much of yourself, but realize with the right support, you can do amazing things.
Hi, I'm Teepa Snow, and you just found our YouTube channel and watched one of our videos. I'm the owner and founder of Positive Approach to Care. Thanks for watching. And if you liked, if you have a comment about, or you would, please share it with people you know. Oh, and if you haven't yet done it, consider subscribing. We'll let you know when the next new video comes out. And you might want to visit our website, www.teepasnow.com, where you'll find other resources as well. See you there.